All right, so I wanted to do a video. I'm not gonna on basically an anti-sarcopenic pro-anabolic diet. I'll be leaving links in the description to prove what I'm saying in the video. I'm not going to get into the cross-linking theory of aging. It's just going to be too long for me to do that, but I will briefly get into it, but not in depth. I'm going to make a whole playlist on, I think I'm going to call it something like bodybuilding for anti-aging or something of that nature. And the reason why is because there's other theories of aging. And what people don't understand, see, I've been studying, in a layman's sense, the theories of aging since I've been about 11 years old. The antioxidant theory of aging, the mitochondrial theory of aging, the cross-linking theory of aging, the hormonal theory of aging. There's a lot of theories of aging, and what I've discovered is they're all true, and this is what people don't understand. Every one of these theories is true. Some of them have a bigger impact, or at least a more noticeable impact than others, but that does not mean that the others are not true. Aging is a multifaceted disease state. This is the thing. A lot of people, me included, think that aging needs to be basically stated, it needs to be a disease so that it can receive treatment like any other disease. Because a lot of the diseases of aging are actually basically side effects of the progressive systematic decline of the organism through a disease process, through a catabolic disease process. It's not it's not difficult to understand what's going on in the sense that we know what aging is. Aging is not an unavoidable fact of life, like people like to make it seem, because there are species that don't age. Okay, but let's get into the this anabolic lifestyle. This is not just an anabolic diet. That's not what I'm going over here. It's a whole anabolic lifestyle. So number one is get adequate protein. What is adequate protein to reverse sarcopenia? It's 0.8 grams per pound of body weight. What that translates to is I would round that up and do what bodybuilders have been doing since the Bronze Age, which is 1 gram per pound of body weight. Branched chain amino acids and glycine. Why did I add those to this little mix? Especially if you're getting a vegan diet, which I will put in why you want a vegan diet, the difference between plant proteins and how they affect you versus how animal proteins affect you, and how plant proteins extend life, whereas animal proteins detract from the lifespan. But the reason you want BCAAs is because they're responsible for anabolism. They're responsible for, especially leucine is responsible for the muscle signaling of protein synthesis. Why do you want glycine? Glycine is a life extension agent. When glycine is given to rats, it extends their lifespan. I've made other videos about that. I'm not going to get into that. The reason I put glycine here is because when you eat a high protein diet, although high plant protein does not affect the kidneys like high animal protein, but glycine protects kidney and liver function. That's a very important thing. It's actually given to prevent medications from destroying the liver and kidneys. Eat a diet rich in phytonutrients to block myostatin and stimulate sirtuins and AMPK. I'm not going to get into sirtuins and AMPK here, but I will get into them in later videos. Myostatin is what breaks down muscle. As we age, our muscles are less likely to respond to anabolic signals and more likely to respond to the stimulus of myostatin, or the breakdown of the muscle tissue. Get enough fat in the form of monounsaturated fat. You need fat to make hormones. People do make enough cholesterol. And also what's funny is people go, well, you need saturated fat. You need saturated fat. There's saturated fat in olive oil. People don't understand that. You don't need to be taking in oodles of saturated fat and whacking out your LDL cholesterol. Okay. get 7 to 9 hours of sleep and get a 2 hour nap if possible. This is proven by science, but bodybuilders knew this for generations. Going all the way back, I know in my Joe Weider book on bodybuilding, he recommends getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep and taking naps whenever possible. Engage in some type of resistance training. I'm not going to put a link to any type of resistance training because people know what resistance training is. The important thing, I think, is to understand that you need to give your muscles time to regenerate, to rebuild themselves, because it's not the resistance that causes the muscle to grow per se. It's the resistance that causes the breakdown of the muscle and the stimulation of it to repair itself. But it's not necessarily where it grows when it recovers. It's growing when you're napping. So this is the whole breakdown of a general anabolic lifestyle. Now, to get back into the phytonutrients, two of the prime ones that seem to affect, that seem to block myostatin the best are cocoa and green tea. But you do want to get a bunch of different a varied amount of phytonutrients from varied plant sources. This is why I take things like spinach powder, kale powder, pomegranate peel powder. I take, obviously, I drink black tea. I take cocoa throughout the day. I take, I get about 9 tablespoons of cocoa, and I just make it by putting it in water. Sometimes I'll put some instant decaffeinated coffee in there, and I'll put some sweetener in there. As for the BCAAs and the glycine, take that between meals to help stimulate protein synthesis between the main meals. I want to give a shout out, and I'm going to do a full video on this. There was a guy that was a friend of mine on Facebook, Dr. Michael Lustgarten, and he's a gerontologist. Now, he's in the low protein camp to an extent too, but he's not kooky. And I believe his website is michaellustgarten.com. One of the links in the description is to his website, and it's on cocoa and myostatin inhibition. I'm going to leave a link to his channel, I believe, also. He's a very decent research scientist, and I think what's interesting, I think what's important to remember, and actually what's funny is Greg Doucette, I think he might be my new favorite YouTuber. Greg Doucette put Peter Attia in his place. Peter Attia is an aging researcher, and Greg Doucette put him in his place with facts that personal trainers know. And I think in a couple months, I'm going to start putting pictures of myself on my Instagram account. Not yet, because I don't want to put the public through that. But within about 2 or 3 months, I should be in good enough shape to show that, sticking to an anabolic lifestyle does help. And we know from a guy, it's funny because what got me into bodybuilding was anti-aging. And what got me out of bodybuilding was anti-aging research. Now, what's funny about that is I'm pretty sure the bodybuilders might know a little bit more, at least the ones that do it for health. This is the problem with bodybuilding. A lot of people get into bodybuilding for health, okay? And then they get into it for aesthetics. And then they put the health to the back burner, and then eventually health gets out of it, and then they're sucking down steroids and PDs and everything else. So my point is that bodybuilding has been used for health cultivation since before, when it was still physical culture. Physical culture is basically health cultivation, the totality of the health of the organism, which bodybuilding broke out of with people like Joe Weider. There is still physical culture in the sense of people like Jack LaLanne, who's now deceased, but his movement is still alive. Not as well as other people's, but his movement is still alive. I think that's going to be all for this video. I am going to do a whole series on the different theories of aging. Keep in mind, though, I am not a health practitioner. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physician. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm none of that stuff. So don't take what I'm saying in this video as health advice. If you have a question about your health, see a licensed healthcare practitioner, particularly if you have a chronic disease like sarcopenia. And that's all for this video.